LAX to Copenhagen. I flew from Los Angeles' LAX airport to Copenhagen's Kastrup airport on SAS in business class. The plane was an Airbus 350, flight number SK932. I sat in seat 4A, a window seat. This will be a quick description and review of the experience. Also, I visited the Delta Sky Club Lounge prior to the flight. I have posted a separate video on it and will leave a link in the description below. My boarding pass said the 7:30 p.m. flight would begin boarding at 7 p.m. I arrived at 6:40 and people were already boarding, so I walked directly onto the plane. You had to pass through gates that scanned your image and then walk through a special ramp for business class. The SAS business class cabin is in a 1-to-1 configuration. The center overhead bins are higher than the sides, which makes the entire cabin feel more spacious. There was plenty of space in the bins. Each person basically had their own. There is a decent amount of privacy in each cubicle, which is very well designed. When you arrive, your seat looks like this, with a comforter and pillow in your seat. There is a nice-sized console, and above it is a narrow shelf that houses the headphones and an amenity kit. More on the amenity kit later. Below the shelf is an international outlet, 2 USB ports, the headphone jack, and a tethered remote control for the entertainment screen. There was also a hidden water bottle. The TV had a nice wide screen with great resolution. It was one of the most responsive screens I have used, so I never bothered with the remote. It had plenty of options for movies and TV shows, as well as a kids center, music, and flight information. There was a nice-sized pocket next to it where I stored the amenity kit, and there was also a coat hook that protruded when you pushed on it. Below this was another pocket that held the plane's printed information. The single-row seats alternate with one seat by the window and the next seat by the aisle. I chose one by the window because I wanted more privacy, but I wondered if it would have been better to be on the aisle. It was a little difficult to get out of the narrow space to exit the cubicle. There was plenty of leg space. My feet never reached the farthest platform. During takeoff and landing, I had to stuff my backpack far to the back on the shelf, and during the flight, I left my backpack on the floor in the narrow aisleway, again making it more difficult to exit. The buttons to operate the seat were conveniently located in 2 places, one above the console and one lower to make it easier to operate when lying down. There were additional buttons to adjust lighting in your suite. Since the console was so large, you could easily put your laptop, drinks, and even a food tray there. The tray table was hidden in the side table and you had to push it to release it, then pull it out. It was very easy to operate, was a decent size, and slid forward and back. The side next to the window had an armrest that lowered by pulling on a lever. This gave you a little more space when trying to sleep. The amenity kit came in a handy, reusable mesh and fabric bag. I kept it and used it for dirty clothes on the trip. It also included lotion, lip balm, eye mask, earplugs, toothbrush, toothpaste, and socks. The toilet was quite small, just enough room for you to stand. It did have 2 extra amenities, an ozone spray, which was refreshing and added some moisture to your face, and disinfectant wipes. Most people had ordered their dinner in advance after receiving an email a few days before the flight. However, they distributed a printed menu that provided information on drinks, dinner, and breakfast. The service on the flight was excellent. They offered wine, champagne, and cranberry juice before takeoff. The flight took off on time at 7:30, but for the next several hours, the service was interrupted a few times due to turbulence. The flight attendants had to take their seats. The service began with drinks and hot nuts, then a choice of 3 different types of salads, then the main course. I had pre-selected salmon, which was cooked well, but nothing exceptional. There were 2 more courses as part of the service, a cheese plate and a choice of dessert. I declined though because it was already 3 hours into the flight due to the delayed service, and I wanted to get some sleep. I extended the bed, which was quite comfortable. I sleep on my side and it was plenty wide for me. The provided pillow and quilt were nice and cozy. As I said earlier, even while lying flat, my feet didn't reach into the far end of the cubicle. I'm 5'5", so I think a taller person would have room to extend, although the space is somewhat narrow at the far end. I slept about 4 or 5 hours. The menu stated that snacks would be available buffet style, but by the time I checked it out, the flight attendants were preparing the breakfast service. They served breakfast about 90 minutes before the flight was supposed to land. It consisted of sausage and a 2-bite serving of egg. There was also a meat and cheese platter, some muesli, and fruit, and they came by with a bread basket. Coffee, tea, and juice were also served. It was a nice breakfast spread. The flight landed 30 minutes early, which was a nice surprise. So overall, my impression of the experience was positive. I thought the service was excellent. The television options were plentiful. The layout of the cubicle and its design were very comfortable, and the food, although not exceptional, was tasty enough and presented with several options. Would I fly them again? Yes, absolutely. No complaints here. As always, if you have questions or have had a different experience on SAS, feel free to share in the comments section. Check out the Senior Solo Travel website and the Facebook forum where you can interact with other travelers. The website has downloadable trip and packing lists that will aid you in getting ready for travel. I have left links to all the sites in the description. And if you'd like to follow my senior and solo travel journeys, please like and subscribe. Cheers!